Our top story now, the bodies of two businessmen killed in an encounter in Jammu and Kashmir's Srinagar were exhumed yesterday evening in the backdrop of huge protests hours after magisterial inquiry was ordered into the issue. The bodies were then handed over to the families and the burials have been conducted by the families last night. Mohammad Altaf and dental surgeon Mudassir Gul were among the 4 people who died during an anti-terror operation at a commercial complex in Srinagar's Hyderpora on Monday. The families claim that the men were killed in cold blood by security forces. Let's go across to Nazir Masoodi for more. Nazir, an inquiry, a magisterial inquiry has been ordered into this encounter. It's been a huge, point of protest. The families have been demanding the bodies, and now at least they've been able to conduct the last rites.
Yeah, exactly. And before dawn, in the darkness of night, bodies were buried by the families. And there were emotional scenes as the bodies reached there. At the home of Altaf Bhatt, a prominent businessman and who is a multimillionaire. Also the doctor Mudassir Gul, a dental surgeon turned businessman. Their bodies were handed to their families at around 12 in the night, and within few hours, they were buried at around 3 a.m. Burial was complete. There was heart-wrenching, very emotional scenes when the bodies were received by their families. Altaf had moved into his new palatial house just a few months back, and yesterday when I spoke to his daughter, just 13-year-old, she was saying that time she will not cry. She is not like a coward like those who kill her father in a room, in a helpless person, a defenseless person. But once the body reached, everybody was crying, wailing the woman. Then there was some slogan shouting. And because families were told that you have to bury them in the darkness of night, before dawn. So that exactly happened. Before dawn, both the bodies were buried. But away from Srinagar and the media limelight, in Ramban, in Gul area of Ramban, a family is still waiting for the body. Abdul Latif Magre, an anti-militancy crusader, a poor man living in a remote village. Yesterday, a large number of people also gathered there. They have also been waiting for the body. Police have said he was a hybrid, militant. But so far, all the evidences and the eyewitness accounts say he was there, very much there, working as a tea maker in the same complex, working with Dr. Mudassir, and he too was killed in a staged encounter. So they are still waiting for the body. Well, the 2 bodies have been returned of 2 businessmen from Srinagar, but another family is still waiting. So government has ordered a magisterial probe, but everybody is questioning. Will a junior officer, additional magistrate, probe those senior officers involved in the encounter?
All right, Nazir, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So the last rite, the burials performed of those 2 men. Now, earlier on Tuesday, as political parties rallied behind the families, the Lieutenant Governor, Manoj Sinha, ordered a magisterial probe into the killings. Deputy Commissioner of Srinagar has been appointed additional district magistrate as the inquiry officer.
Late on Wednesday night, the police swooped down on the families of Mudassir Gul and Altaf Bhatt, killed in the Hyderpura encounter, as they sought the bodies be returned. Actions that have only deepened the controversy over the encounter. The Lieutenant Governor has ordered an inquiry. The police said they will address the concerns. Jammu and Kashmir Police Chief Dilbag Singh said that police will look into the demands and grievances of families and that police are open to correction if anything went wrong. But multiple questions remain over the police claims. First, claiming they were killed by terrorist bullets, later claiming it was crossfire.
मिलिटेंट दरबार नहीं खोला। उसके बाद फिर उसको मौका दिया गया, नॉक किया, मिलिटेंट दरबार खोल के अंधाधुंध फायरिंग कर दिया पिस्टल से। इनकाउंटर होती है किसका गोली लगा ये तफ्तीश करना होगा, किस जगह लगा। हो सकता है कि अगर उसके बॉडी से पिस्टल का दौड़ लगा है तो ये 100% मिलिटेंट ने मारा है। अगर एक लगा तो हम कहेंगे कि हमारे फायरिंग लगा है पूरा।
The police also seemed to admit that controversially, Bhatt and Mudassir Gul may have been used as human shields, accompanying them to where the terrorists were hiding.
दोनों नॉक करने किया दरवाजा को, मिलिटेंट दरबार नहीं खोला। उसके बाद फिर उसको मौका दिया गया, नॉक किया, मिलिटेंट दरबार खोल के अंधाधुंध फायरिंग कर दिया पिस्टल से।
There are also contradictions and questions over the claims of the police that the two businessmen were terror supporters.
The police first claimed Altaf Bhatt was a terrorist associate, but later referred him as owner of the commercial complex, not terrorist associate.
मैं रोऊंगी नहीं, मैं इनकी तरह नहीं हूँ, बुज़दिल नहीं हूँ। मैं इनकी तरह जो मेरे बाप को कमरे में लेके मारा, मैं वो बुज़दिल नहीं हूँ। मैं सबके सामने आऊंगी, मैं बोलूंगी मेरा बाप बेगुनाह था, उसको कैसे मारा।
At Altaf Bhatt's home, his daughters are grief-stricken.
दिल है वो कैसे खुले घूम रहे हैं, वो कैसे रह रहे हैं इस दुनिया में, वो रह कैसे रहे। अब मेरे साथ तो वो हो गया, मैं यतीम हो गई एंड आई एक्सेप्टेड एंड आई एम प्राउड ऑफ माई फादर। लेकिन मैं चाहती हूँ जैसे मैं यतीम हुई और कोई ना हो।
क्रॉस फायरिंग में शहीद नहीं हुए थे, उनको 2 बार कमरे में लिया, 2 बार टॉर्चर किया, उनको तीसरी बार उनको सीधे सीने पे गोली लगाई
और वो अब
बॉडी भी नहीं दे रहे हैं ये लोग। हमारी ये प्लीज, हमारी ये रिक्वेस्ट है, हमें अपने पापा को आखिरी बार हमें देखना है।
The father of Amir Magre has also contested police claims that his son was a terrorist. Abdul Latif Magre is an anti-terrorist crusader in Kashmir and recipient of Army's citation certificate.
मैंने खुद पत्थर से मिलिटेंट मारा है और खुद मुझे गोलियां आई हैं। मेरा एक भाई चचेरा, वो भी गोलियों से मिलिटेंटों ने मारा। मैंने बच्चों को बड़े मुश्किल से छुपा छुपा के जनाब पाला था और पढ़ाया था। आज उसका रिजल्ट ये निकला कि एक हिंदुस्तानी आदमी पत्थर से मिलिटेंट को मारता है और उसके बच्चे को मिलिटेंट बनाते हैं और उसको गोलियां लगाकर मार देते हैं।
This is second controversial encounter in last 16 months in Kashmir when government has agreed to hold an inquiry. Last year, an army probe has indicted its own troops for a fake encounter in Shopia when 3 innocent persons were killed and passed off as Pakistani terrorists. The question is, will there be an impartial probe in Hyderpora encounter? Will the victims get justice? In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
Now look at the weather situation in South India, and there's a heavy rain warning for 5 districts of Tamil Nadu. A rain holiday has been declared for schools and colleges in Chennai and several other districts. Only light showers are predicted, however, for Chennai. Also, coastal Karnataka and parts of Andhra Pradesh are also experiencing heavy rainfall today. Puducherry has been pounded by heavy rain up to 19.2 centimeters of rain. There's an orange alert for rainfall over Bengaluru and other parts of south interior Karnataka. Schools in several districts are closed. But let's now focus on Tirupati. A heavy spell of rain has led to flooding in Tirupati town in the Chittoor district of Andhra. Water has entered people's houses. You can see there, bus also submerged. Roads have turned into fast-flowing rivers, especially in the Ghat road. The rain has left hundreds of pilgrims stranded as the downpour battered the temple town. The 4 Mada streets adjoining the main temple on Tirumala Hills remain flooded. Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy directed authorities to be vigilant and take necessary measures in wake of the inclement weather. Mr. Jagan asked the collector to closely monitor the water levels and take required steps accordingly. According to the Chief Minister's office, deploy NDRF, SDRF teams and carry out rescue and relief operations. All the line departments should remain on alert and take required action according to the situation, is what the Chief Minister has said. So there you can see the flooded streets of Tirupati, all converted into a river almost, and many pilgrims are stranded due to this heavy rain. New satellite images accessed by NDTV show that China has constructed a second enclave or cluster of at least 60 buildings in Arunachal Pradesh. This new enclave did not exist in 2019 according to satellite images. A year later, it can be seen. It lies 93 kilometers east of a China-constructed village in Arunachal Pradesh. A big encroachment first reported by NDTV in January, which was confirmed by the Pentagon report just a few days ago.
New satellite images accessed by NDTV show that China has constructed a second enclave or cluster of at least 60 buildings in Arunachal Pradesh. Now this lies 93 kilometers east of the China-constructed village in Arunachal. A big encroachment first reported by NDTV in January. This was confirmed by a US Pentagon report. But let's talk about the second enclave. Now this enclave that you see here did not exist in 2019 according to satellite images. A year later it can be seen. Let's make this more clear. The image you see is from March 2019. As you can see, there's nothing here, just snow, no enclave. Now compare March 2019 on your left with September this year on your right. The enclave of more than 64 structures has evidently been completed. So the big question, where exactly is this? What you see on your screens is Bharat Maps, a government-run online map service. Enter the coordinates of the village and the exact location shows up. The enclave is in the Shiomi district, a remote district of Arunachal Pradesh. Now the image you see here is actually the digital vector of the state of Arunachal Pradesh, downloaded from the Survey General of India at cost and superimposed onto Google Earth Pro. It's the official boundary. You can see the exact location here as well, which we've marked. Now these images show not just dozens of buildings, but also a structure with a flag of China painted on a rooftop, which we've highlighted there, large enough to be spotted by imaging satellites. The giant flag appears to assert a territorial claim to this area. Now, the enclave is located in an area where local geography makes access to this valley much more conducive from the Chinese side than from the Indian side. The area is separated by steep mountain ranges from Indian controlled territory. A photograph of this enclave was published in July by the Xinhua News Agency, the state-run press agency of the People's Republic of China. They've named it. It's called Kyungling. This is the very same place. Now, in a statement to NDTV, the Indian Army has said the location corresponding to the coordinates mentioned in your query, we asked them this query, lies to the north of the line of actual control in Chinese territory. But this statement does not refute the fact that the construction of this enclave seems to lie between the line of actual control and the international boundary. In other words, within Indian territory illegally occupied by China.
Now, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Uttar Pradesh today for 3 straight days, starting today in what is being seen as a big push by the BJP ahead of crucial state elections early next year. By the end of the week, the Prime Minister would have spent 4 days in UP. He inaugurated the Purvanchal Expressway on Tuesday from Sultanpur, and today he will be in Mahoba and Jhansi. But before leaving today, the Prime Minister's office has tweeted that today is the festival of lights of Guru Nanak. Today, Prime Minister Modi will be visiting Mahoba, UP, to inaugurate irrigation projects. Then in the evening, he will attend the Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Parv in Jhansi. But before leaving, he will give a message to the nation at 9 a.m. So the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing the nation today at 9 a.m. According to the message that the Prime Minister's office has put out, they talk about how it is the festival of lights of Guru Nanak. Today, Prime Minister will be visiting Mahoba in UP to inaugurate irrigation projects. Then in the evening, attending the Rashtra Raksha Samarpan Parv in Jhansi, and before leaving, he will give a message to the nation at 9 a.m. It's not clear whether this is on the occasion of Guru Nanak Gurpurab or whether it is just an address to the nation. But that is the big news story right now. At around 9 o'clock, at 9 a.m., the Prime Minister will be addressing the nation. He will then leave for Uttar Pradesh. His program includes visiting Mahoba, where he will launch an irrigation project, and then later he will be in Jhansi, where he will attend a defense event. So he will also lay the foundation stone for a 400 crore project in Jhansi. Welcome back. Delhi air quality remains in the very poor category, and one of the steps taken to clean up the toxic air by the Environment Ministry's Commission of Air Quality Management is to put construction activity on hold. But this has impacted daily wage labourers. Shunakshi Chakravarti reports.
35-year-old Sumit Kumar, a resident of Bihar, came to Delhi to make a living as a construction worker, but lost all his savings during the COVID lockdown. Now with Delhi putting construction activities on hold to fight pollution, he says he cannot survive.
ये बात तो सही है कि हम लोगों का तो कोई इसमें कोई ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कहने का मतलब, और वो अपनी मर्जी से कभी भी लगा देते हैं जो ये प्रदूषण है ये है वो है, तो इनकी वो व्यवस्था करे ना, इसका वो कोई तो उपाय सोचे.
Sumit has run out of money, so he has started working at this tea stall. A construction worker's body in Delhi has moved the top court against the ban on construction. These two mechanical engineers, who migrated to Delhi from Kanpur to earn a better living, ask, why is it always the poor who have to suffer?
बस बेमतलब के लिए रोका जा रहा है कि आप काम मत करिए, आपके वजह से हो रहा है. अगर हर चीज़ हमारी वजह से होता तो काम मैम तो सभी बंद रहता है.
जो हमारे पास जो लड़के हैं काम करते हैं जो बाहर से आए हुए हैं रहने के लिए, तो वो तो मतलब वो पैसा मांगते हैं मुझसे, मगर यहाँ से गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से बंदी कर दी गई है कि जो है आप यहाँ पे काम नहीं कर सकते.
The strategies to fight pollution, according to the Commission of Air Quality Management order, are shut schools and colleges in and around the capital until further notice. Halt on all construction activities till November 21st. Temporarily close 6 coal-fired power plants near Delhi. Private offices advised 50% employees to work from home until Sunday. Ban trucks carrying non-essential goods and private construction in Delhi. Meanwhile, the Delhi Environment Minister says if the halt on construction activity continues, they will consider compensation.
Will you be considering a compensation for them?
अभी तो कुछ दिन के लिए बढ़ाया गया, अगर लांगर होता है तो इस पे सरकार निर्णय लेगी.
Governments may be opting for strategies to fight pollution, but once again it is the common man, daily wage workers, lakhs of them forced to sit at home with no income in hand. The government must consider spending on them and compensate them while they try to survive curfews and shutdowns. In Delhi with Pooja Arya, Shunakshi Chakravarti, NDTV.
I'll start with you. I'll start by asking you about scaling the Alps and what led you to your journey to the Alps. Tashi, if I can start with you.
Sure. Well, that was a good start. Actually, we did 3 mountains in Switzerland, but 2 of them were 14,000ers and one of them was 12,000 feet. Well, this was an initiative by My Switzerland Tourism in India, and obviously as a part of the Switzerland tourism, we were invited for this 100% Women Peak Challenge. You look at the climbing world, you know, it's still a male preserve, and so to break that stereotype, to break that lens of like people imagining it to be only men's forte, this was a good initiative by the Switzerland tourism to allow us to show that women can climb mountains.
When I saw your footage, I saw the 2 of you, and there were 3 other women who were tagged along with you in that long string that you had attached yourself with. Who were the other 3, and how did you guys meet and decide to do the expedition together?
Well, Rika, first of all, thank you for having us. So when Tash and I went to the base in Zermatt, we had 3 other women with us. 2 of them, one of course was not very experienced mountaineer or climber, a novice you can say pretty much. And one of them was representing India Hikes in Switzerland, so she was a part of the expedition as well. We had our guide, who is Caroline, who understands the Swiss Alps wonderfully, and she was a main part of the expedition. So what you saw on the image was like all of the climbers roped in, which is very necessary considering there could be crevices and avalanche danger. So it means that we've got each other's back. And if something happens to one of us, then we all face the repercussion of that episode. So it was quite fascinating because Swiss Alps are particularly different than the Himalayas in the sense that they don't pose, I guess, elevation challenge, like acclimatization challenge. They are a little technical. Which means that the skills you need to climb that needs to be really well and profound.
Nunshi, I'll have to ask you about one of the pictures there from your expedition. It felt like there was a storm that was following you?
I think this could be the footage from Alalihon, the second peak that we did. We weren't too keen to get out of beds because we had to start early in the morning. It was 4, it was cold, and as we, entered the cable car, to go to the base, I remember just like looking outside the window and thinking, oh my God, do we really have to do this? It seemed like it was going to rain all day, and we were going to encounter some terrible weather. And as it turns out, when we started our climb, it was almost like the storm was following us. If you saw in the image in the backdrop, there's like these clouds just coming over and trying to engulf all of us in. But as we started ascending and got to a point where we were slightly further away from the base, we realized that the weather was starting to clear out. The sun was coming out, the weather was beginning to open up, and it called for an awesome view from the place that we started our expedition. It was a good start.
How was the view from the summit?
Oh, Tash, how was the view? Do you remember?
Oh, I can tell you. I think why I love climbing mountains is primarily because of the view. It's so beautiful, and the Swiss Alps, oh my gosh, so charming. You have this one gigantic mountain called Mount Matterhorn, and no matter where in the Swiss Alps you climb, it's such an iconic mountain that you get to see from any of the summit of the Swiss Alps. So I think it's a very beautiful, it's always difficult to describe it in words because the blues and the pinks and the purples that you see is something that are a treat to the eyes. But absolute, like the alpine glow with the orange light on the summit, and such a beautiful a culmination of what the mountains have. Like, I think without the view, mountains won't really be that special in it. Like, it is definitely the view.
What is the prettiest climb that you have had?
Yeah, wow. So for me, having traveled and climbed all over the world, I think Everest has always been very special, because I remember this one moment where just before the summit, you get to see this beautiful, it's called we call it the pyramid in Everest, but it's like essentially a shadow of the mountain behind Everest, and that on the other mountain looks beautiful, like the whole pyramid. And I think it's one of the most pretty things you can see. No other mountain actually has that. I think it's the first time I've ever experienced it.
Where did it all begin? I understand that you girls are separated by 21 minutes.
That is correct. Not separated by our passion, though. I think mountains and climbing has got us together so beautifully that it's almost like calling ourselves inseparable, which is actually the adjective I would like to use.
Were you never intimidated by the mountains?
Well, for me, I think I have been intimidated by it many times, actually, to be honest, because they're so gigantic in nature. But at the same time, I think that's the beauty, when something looks extraordinarily difficult, something looks impossible, and then you have this desire and the fire to actually, push to your goal and achieve it. That's something is very exciting.
What are the motivations that keep you going?
Well, great question. I think this is a question that, initially when we started out, we had to ask ourselves that, because none of our family, members or ever had even ventured out in a sport like mountaineering. So these were the questions we kind of, asked ourselves before entering it. Well, mountaineering, the beauty is, unfortunately, the sport is one where you don't have spectatorship. So it's not like any other sports where, people could come and, applaud you for what you do. So it lacks that kind of support, and obviously hence why people get, restrain themselves. But if you take mountaineering professionally, there are ways in indulging yourself in becoming professional with it, which means that you could do up like a guiding certificate from, abroad, because they do offer like the IFMG, which is an International Federation of Mountain and Association. They basically give you certifications for guiding around the world.
For you, I know you have several records that are in the Guinness Book. You have traveled the South Pole, the North Pole. What's next coming for you, Nungshi?
What's next? Oh my God, this is a very difficult question to answer. So we have a few interesting things in the pipeline. Tash and I are really passionate about a few shows that we want to kind of introduce in India, adventure reality shows that we're passionate about.
Like Nungshi said, I think our life has been a message. I think our vision also keeps changing based on what we do next. So I think, in 2019, Nash and I competed in the World's Toughest Race, which was absolutely not in a 5-year plan or 10-year plan. But that happened, and that sort of opened up a lot more opportunities. I do want to get, like my sister said, in the creative space, so more like TV space, because I feel like still, I mean, when you look at international, platforms, whether it's Discovery or Nat Geo or any of these big, shows, there's still, we lack like a kind of women mentorship in any of these shows, like whether it's hosting a reality show or hosting an adventure show like Nas said. So I think really bringing women in limelight.
Well, Tashi and Nungshi, thank you very, very much for joining me on this interview. It was splendid talking to you, and I wish you get to climb many more peaks, and quite literally.
Thank you.
Thank you again.